Hey folks, welcome back to another video. I noticed I never showed you how to do vector synthesis in the grid. And now with the new oscillator we got here in Bitwig Studio 4, the Scrawl, the drawable oscillator, it's maybe a perfect time to show you this. So vector synthesis is basically that you use a vector to blend between multiple oscillator shapes. And we can do this with the XY coordinate GUI interface thing here called XY, and we use multiple instances here of the scroll, exactly 4, and we load in multiple shapes. So here we have the sine, here we load in maybe a saw, here we have maybe let's use this roller coaster there, and here we load in something strange, something like this. So we can use the XY coordinate pad here to blend between these. And first we select the XY coordinate pad, and then we go to the left side into the inspector. We can switch this here to bipolar mode, right? So now this is only positive values. So if you go to the right side, you only got positive values. So +1, 0, +1, 0, +1 in this direction, right? And if you are down here, you have 0 in both directions. But now we switch this to bipolar mode. So 0 is now in the middle, and this is negative, and this is negative, this is positive, and this is positive, right? So we have both directions. And the best way to do now this blend is to use a blend or multiple blends. So the blend basically fades between two inputs and gives us one output. So what we do now is we blend here between the top oscillator and the bottom oscillator. So to do this here, we use a modulator out. Actually, we use two modulator outs, the red one here and the blue one. So the red one is basically to the right side and to the left side. So this is negative, this is positive. So with the positive value, we want to have these two oscillators here. But I need to set up something more. And if we go up here to with the blue output here, we want to have these two oscillators playing. So that's what we want to do. And we need here also another blend, second one. But instead of using these two, we're using these two, right? So if we go now up here in the positive range, we use the blue output and switch basically to the blue output or to the upper output here. So exactly 50%. You can also check this here by just drawing this. If you go all the way to the right, you can see this one is disabled. So it only takes this input here now, right? So you can check this. If you go to this direction, it only takes the upper input. So what we want to do now here is basically when we go up, we can see both of these go down. Then it takes the upper input here, also here. So we take this one and this one. It's exactly what we want. We want to go up and we want to blend only these two together, right? That's exactly what we want. Go back in the middle here. And if we go down, you can see we modulate here to 100% and then take the lower input, these two here, right? That's what we do. So now we need to blend between the left and the right side, and we do this also with the blend. Second one or third one, we bring these two together. So now if we go to the right side, we want to have, not this one, we want to have this one, this input. So these two. Okay, so we take the red, modulate back here to -50%. And now we blend basically either these or these together. And if we now move into the corner here, we have then the right side and only the upper oscillator, right? So this is then the combination. So I can prove this by using an oscilloscope here. bring this in and switch the oscilloscope into pitch mode here in the inspector, you can see the shape then. And you can go over here, you can see we have then the roller coaster here. And down here we have this shape. Here we have the saw. And up here we have the sign, right? So you can create any combination of these positions here and create a nice blend, a nice vector synthesis sound or wave shape. So it's basically, vector synthesis is basically some kind of, yeah, the same thing as a wavetable, but here you don't use a table with all kinds of waveforms in it, which is more or less like a sample or using a sampler in the cycles mode. Here you use 4 oscillator shapes, blend between them, and create in the middle here some kind of combination of all of them. So you have more options because you can go here and here and here and here, right? It's not like a linear. So when you have a wavetable, you can only scan basically in one direction. You have one dimension. You can from here morph to there, and that's it. But you can't morph from this position into the middle and from this position to this position, right? You have only a linear morph, basically. It's the same morph from here to here, and that's it. But here you can go from here to there, or from here to there, or to there, or here, right? You have more options. You have more vectors, basically, to use. That's why it's called vector synthesis. So now we can create a different combination of shapes with this. Of course, we have to use here an ADSR. It's an output. And let's use output here. And we can also shape this even more, right? This is now the subtractive part. So we can use a Moog filter here. And if you watch the shape, the oscillator shape here, it changes too, right? So it's also like a modification of the waveform because we remove all the upper harmonics of the wave shape itself, which then in the end shapes the waveform even more. So it becomes then at some point you're probably a kind of a sine wave. So you have multiple vectors now to change the sound of this. You can shape here and shape here. And if you modulate all of this, you get a nice sound. So maybe use a supermassive here also as a reverb. And then use here random mod, put this into half, smooth up, modulation of the filter, slowly modulating. And then we can move this here. And if you actually accidentally move here this whole pad around all the time, you can switch here the grid into this lock mode. So now you can't modify anything, but you can easily move here the knob. And then we can play something on the keyboard. Maybe open this up here a bit more. And at the moment, the grid is basically in monophonic mode, so we select here the device and go to polyphony mode. Now we can play chords. So what we also can do is probably to duplicate here this random mod and then modulate basically here the XY coordinates. Let's try how this sounds. So now it's also polyphonic. All these random mods here are polyphonic, so each voice gets a different wave shape or different modulation, which can also sound interesting. It's maybe a bit too much sometimes, but you can also dial in here just a little bit of modulation, not that drastic, but I want to show you basically the effect of this. Maybe also use here slow attack. Modulate is a bit slower here. Let's go to bar. So that dot here moves slower. So you get the idea, right? So this is the more or less complete grid way of doing it, because you use the XY coordinate pad inside of the grid. But there's actually a better way, easier way of doing this. I'm deleting here the random mods again. I'm deleting this one, also this one, and I remove the XY coordinate pad and remove this now over here. So let's use it that way. And we can even use more. Let's say we have 4 now here. 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's use 8, right? So we have a whole collection here of different oscillators. So let's load in here all kinds of different shapes. I have no idea how this sounds, but it's just for experimentation purposes. Sine square, yeah, sure, why not? Let's use something completely crooked, something like this. So now we have this kind of setup. So we have 8 inputs. 8 inputs, this is perfectly fine, probably for... let's use a mix. Actually use a mixer. Let's connect everything here to a mixer. Bam. Bam. Oh, we have actually only 6 inputs. So now we switch this here to a sum. I think we have 8 inputs there. So now with the sum, we basically lack here the volume inputs or the volume parameters. So we can just utilize here attenuate and pull this down. It's a bit tedious to set up, but you have now 8 oscillator shapes you can blend between, which makes it highly dynamic, a dynamic sound. I think there's no synthesizer on the market where you can do this. Only in Bitwig. I have no idea actually. There's probably some kind of synthesizer where you can do this. So now we have all this set up here. It's basically just a mixer at this point with volume knobs here, or with attenuates. And then we can go out here back into the oscilloscope, and then into the envelope, and then into the output. And now we can go to the polygrid here and can use the vector 8 modulator. And the vector 8 is basically the same as the XY coordinate pad as before, but here we have now 8 outputs. And here it's much easier to blend between these things, because we just grab here basically one point and say, if I am in this corner with my dot, right, then I want to play, or I want to attenuate this this wave shape here, right? If I'm here, I want to have to use this. If I'm here, I'm using this. If I'm here, this goes to there. This goes to there. Here and there. Boom. And now we can blend between 8 shapes. And if you're in the middle, there's no shape at all. Just probably not what we want, but... But you can see here how we blend everything together, right? You get such a complex waveform. think probably a better way would be to use this here maybe at 50%. I'm not sure if this works. I just tried out. I actually never did this before. So we stay in the middle and we utilize... Is there actually a negative value when I have this here? Probably not, huh? No, it doesn't output your negative values. So I thought when I have this here, when I use this here, I get negative values for this position. No, it's not gonna work this way. Yeah, but not a problem. So if it would actually work this way, then you could have a mixture of everything in the middle here. But that's not gonna work. So now, but this can still blend here between all these 8 points. So if that's not enough modulation for you, then you can also bring in here, instead of these static drawable oscillator types, you can bring in a wavetable. In this wavetable, you can load up complex shape and then modulate this even more, right? So when you are at this top position here, you have now a sine which can change to a different wave shape. And then you can also change here, right, the wave shape. So you can change it in so many multiple directions at the same time, which leads to so many different sonic results. So we could use an LFO here, or let's use an random mod here, and then modulate here slowly, hertz. Let's go up here. Oh, I have to move this up. Maybe use a different waveform here. So now at the top position here, if you don't move anything, you have this morphable wavetable. Maybe this one here is also replaced with the wavetable. Let's use a different one here, maybe something complex. Dubstep organ? No idea. Also use here an LFO. So now at this position and at this position you have a wavetable that morphs itself. So now you can utilize the segments, this thing here, and then try to find here some sweet spots, or modulate actually the X and Y coordinate thing here. And if you are here, down here, then you're on the middle, which produces no sound, so you try to avoid that. Maybe let's load in here some different shapes. Maybe it's something like this. And yeah, it's slow enough. Maybe 3 bars. Okay, and then we duplicate this and modulate here in another direction with different speed setting, maybe 5. Let's see how this works. So with the segments, then you can create some kind of different morph points, or how you want to modulate through this vector pad here, and create basically the same kind of sound every time you hit the key, and then play around with the segments timing here to get different sound shapes. So this is just, to give you some ideas how you can utilize the scroll and vector synthesis in the grid with the vector 8 pad and also with the XY pad in the grid itself. I think there's also here an vector 4 or something like this. Yeah, this one here. It works kind of in the same way as the vector pad inside of the grid. I am not sure if this is also your bipolar. It's probably also just unipolar. So if you want to have this real blend with minus values, you have to probably use the XY pad inside of the grid. But this, using the vector 8, is also a nice way of doing things, as you can see here, to create rich harmonics with multiple oscillator shapes, right? So I want to give you basically this idea how to set up something like this in the grid. And yeah, that's it for this video. Leave a like if you liked the video, subscribe to the channel, and ask some questions in the comments. Thanks for watching. See you next video. Bye.